Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings, Mondays through Fridays at 8 o'clock Central to talk about tips, strategies, share success stories, and support each of you. Most of you are either current distribution partners of ours or considering becoming one. There's no cost to be a distribution partner. We use the terms grant coordinator and reseller interchangeably. No cost, no contract to sign, just help people and make money. Today is June 5th. Before we get into our topic today, it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to cover some items that you had not considered before, which are advanced strategies and techniques. But before we get there, let's go back and kind of recite the most basic principle that we all need to have a common foundation of. As a 501c3 nonprofit, we applied for a grant, we received a grant. It's built around building financial literacy and increasing access to capital for small business owners. With that being said, there's a massive disconnect in the marketplace. There's frankly massive financial illiteracy. So, the most important basic principle that we all need to be on the same page of is that if someone's looking for money to start or grow a business, they need to have a fundable business. Once they have a fundable business, then we can get business funding. Even this morning, I came early to get some work caught up. We're having quite the growth spurt with the new Express program. But I was in early and the phone rang in the middle of the night, quite frankly, and a prospective client called, said he already has a business, but he heard about our Shelf Corp and wanted to hear more. So what did I ask? Of course, hey, do you have a fundable business? What do they almost always answer? Oh yeah, yeah. And then they'll give you kind of ad hoc some answers or elements, but they don't really know what you and I know. They're missing some core elements. But if you and I don't go out and educate people, they don't know, and they're not going to get business funding if they don't have a fundable business. So that's the solution that you and I have to their problem. What do entrepreneurs do? We've talked about this before. We help other people solve problems. And when you can help people solve problems, you can get paid. The bigger the problem that you solve, the more you can get paid. You and I make some adult income by providing legal, ethical, real services to help others access capital. Now, do we help them improve their financial literacy? Sure, but they typically don't care about that. What they want are the results. So, with the new grant that we rolled out June 1st, it allows us to use the grant funding in advance to pay for the Shelf Corp, where before people had to go through it and get reimbursed. And so we need about 7 days to be able to fulfill that order, to fulfill that contract, to get them the Shelf Corp and documents, and then we're off and go into funding. So what a wonderful role that you and I have in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are kind of the missing link. There's lots of people that offer different services, different businesses that offer services, but if there's not the capitalization, if there's not the funding, if there's not the money, then entrepreneurs are unlikely to be successful, or at least not be able to reach their potential. All right, so today's topic is advanced strategies and techniques. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, type it into the Q&A. They're out working in front, as I think I've mentioned several times. We're building a new corporate training center in front of our current structure. They're working on landscaping today, building the retaining walls and that, and we're going to be open to have you in for training here soon, and that's actually on the agenda. But forgive me for the background noise if you hear the equipment. All right, so advanced strategy number one. So none of these are about what you must do or what you have to do. Not that at all. And in fact, if you've not kind of mastered the mundane, if you're not competent and confident in enrolling a client in the new Express Shelf Corp, I wouldn't move on to advanced topics. But some of you are ready, and so we realize we need to bring these advanced strategies and techniques and topics to everyone's attention. But do not feel that you need to implement any of these. and be thoughtful if you're really ready for these, but let's go through them nonetheless. So, a number of you have asked to get certified. So, in other words, instead of just getting your trainings off of on demand YouTube videos, instead of just getting the morning snippets with the Zooms, many of you have asked to come in, sit down, spend a day with us, see the operations, and get trained. So, we're able to facilitate that now with the new training center opening in July, which is just a couple weeks away. So, with that, well, that's the point I already mentioned. What will happen is if you want to come in and get certified, we're going to have you fly in the night before, and we'll pick you up from the airport. We've got a driver that'll pick you up in our black SUV, as Jack Harlow would say. So, our driver will come down, pick you up, take you to the local bed and breakfast, and then we'll have dinner that night, and then the next day you'll come in and spend the day with us in training. So this is an opportunity if you want to have a deeper understanding, a more thorough understanding, but it is not required. It's not required, nor is it free. So if you want to get certified, it's 10,000, but we're offering to waive that. And so waiver is based upon, are you producing? Right? So, do we want people to pay for the certification? No. We would rather you produce, but some of you produce and some of you don't. So, if you're interested in the certification, you can let us know, but it's just an opportunity for you to roll up your sleeves, develop a deeper knowledge in a more organized fashion rather than just on-demand YouTubes and daily Zooms. So, that's available. We're starting to schedule for the month of July because we do anticipate the training center will be open by then. If there's any questions on that, type it into the Q&A and we'll cover. I think Kenny's asking, what does it take to qualify? Well, we need to have goals, right? Any successful organization should have goals where you have, here's how many people I plan to enroll this month. This month is June. How much money am I going to make? Some of you are sophisticated and you set goals and then you meet or exceed those goals. So if you're of that group, then yes, we can work with you. We can do goal setting. And as long as you meet those goals, then that'll be waived. All right, next. Some of you have said, hey, this new Express program's great where the grant pays for the Shelf Corp up front, but some of you really had an affinity, a liking for the legacy program whereby the grant reimbursed them afterwards. So yes, if you are on board, so you already have the materials. So we're not sending out the legacy, the old model materials going forward. But if you have those, you've built your infrastructure and you want to continue to offer that, that's fine. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time educating you on the legacy program because, if you want to be grandfathered in, you're grandfathered in because you've been around. But yes, if you want to offer the legacy program, which we call the fundable Shelf Corp, it has a wholesale price of 10,000. Anything that you market above that is your profit, so that doesn't change. It's the same. No change. The grant will reimburse the client up to 20,000. You might say, well, if it costs 10, why would the grant reimburse up to 20? That's because you're building your cost in. A number of you were selling the legacy program for 20,000. That gave you 10,000 profit. Some of you want to return to that, and that's fine. So if you were set up on the old program, you're more than welcome to continue to offer it. That I think the main reason that a number of you like that is because you were increasing the price and building in some of your own services. But again, if this makes sense to you, you're welcome to do it. If it sounds foreign, it doesn't make sense, then just skip it because there's no reason for you to get confused. With that being said, you will be responsible for getting the client under contract. Of course, because that's what you do as a reseller, whether it be the new platform, the Express Shelf, or the old, what we call the fundable Shelf Corp. That's what you do. You get clients under contract, so that's no different. But if you're going to offer the legacy program, we don't want to dink around with the first tranche of financing. The financing that we want to focus on is once they have the business, the Shelf Corp, now we want to roll up our sleeves and do that. That's our expertise. So if you want to offer the legacy program, great, go do it. You already have all the documentation, price it as you want. You get the client under contract, you collect payment. If you need to work on financing with the client, you take care of that. Get us the contract, get us our portion, and then we'll implement. And that includes the free credit sweep. That includes 100,000 of collateral. So it's kind of the deluxe or the high level offering. So that is advanced strategy number 2. Advanced strategy number 3, and again, I'm so torn of going through these topics because they're real and they're relevant. But if you don't have your arms around the basics, you can very easily get confused. And so if any of you follow up and you want to dig into these advanced strategies, but it doesn't seem that you understand the basics, then we're going to respectfully decline going into advanced strategies. But a really, really lucrative advanced strategy is this one. And so you got to hear me out. So it's where you find third parties, and I'll define that, that actually pay you for the Shelf Corp for their clients. So, like when you use your health insurance, well, I have stage 4 cancer. So when I go in to get a PET scan every 3 to 6 months to see how the cancer is progressing, good or bad, it's about $17,000. But do I pay for that PET scan? No, insurance pays for it. Therefore, it's a third party paying for it. Would I be less willing to go get PET scans as frequently if I had to pay $17,000 every 3 months? Maybe so. So in general, if someone else is footing the bill, it's obviously easier to get clients. Did you know that you can get third parties to pay the bill for their clients? And I'll give you some examples. And so many of you, well, I shouldn't say that, several of you that are generating 25 plus deals a week off this new platform are leveraging this. But again, this will make sense in a moment. At first glance, maybe it doesn't, but we'll get there. So the bottom line is that there are some businesses and organizations that are willing to pay the processing fee for their clients. And I'll give you some examples. So I'm not saying every one of these examples will always do it, but I can give you examples of what we see happening now. So think about that for a moment, but before I reveal more details. Can you think of an instance where someone would pick up the tab for the Express Shelf Corp for their client? Go ahead and type into the Q&A an example of a business professional or a type of business or an industry where that would kind of make sense. And so Charles is asking for an analogy. So have you ever been able to buy a new car and they threw in free window tint? Yeah, because they want you to buy the car from them versus the other Mercedes dealership. And so sometimes they'll offer a perk. So that's the concept. Okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper and then we'll go through some of your responses. Now there's 2 different approaches that these third parties might take. They might have a package already and they include it in the package. Let's use business coaches for an example. There's a big market for business coaches. Now, business coaches need clients with businesses to do coaching. They usually put together a package and it might be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. It's usually for a year period of time. It includes either group and or individual coaching. You can learn more about business coaching outside of this topic if you want. But they already have a big ticket package. This could be something they could build in and attract a lot more coaching clients, especially for those that don't have a business yet. So that would be an example like business coaches. Others, like Carlos said, would be CPAs, whereby they already have clients, especially CPAs where they tend to have an off season after the tax season. They have a little extra time. So, Yeah, that's right. So business coaches, CPAs, and so forth are good examples. Another really good example, though, is not just those that want to use it in their current offerings, but those that want to attract new clients. Oops, moved down too much. Like attorneys. Now, the way that this needs to be thought through is if you were to ask an attorney, what's the average value of a new client to your firm? Now, it'll vary based upon the law firm and their billing rates and services offered, but pretty much on a national basis, if you look, according to the American Bar Association, ABA, the average life of a client is worth, on average, $5,000 to that law firm. So, of course, some clients are bigger, some are smaller, but on average, 5,000 from the ABA. So, would they be willing to spend 500 with you to have essentially a way to attract almost an infinite number of new clients? Because guess what? Every small business owner is going to need a CPA, as Carlos said. Every small business or every business should have an attorney relationship. Every business should have insurance and an insurance agent relationship. So there's a lot of B2B professionals, which kind of gets into a subsequent best practice or advanced strategy that may, in fact, be willing to pay for it. So I don't know if you'd considered that or not, but that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's go on to the next. And so this is kind of broadening up. Here we're talking about where these other business to business professionals are buying it for their clients or providing it as an incentive to create a new client. Now we're going to flip the coin and say, what about if they just wanted to do joint marketing with you? So let's take website firms, right? Website firms like to develop websites for businesses. So sometimes they'll have businesses that want a website, but they don't have the funding to pay for them because some of these websites can be 10, 15, 20,000 or more if they're very advanced. Well, what could you do? They could refer to you and then you could work with those referrals, get them set up in Express Shelf Corp, whereby they have the funding to be able to afford that website in that example. Same with business coaching as we talked about earlier, but it needs to be a collaborative approach. Most of you are very, very sophisticated, so you don't need me lecturing you on this. But take Jeff, for example. What Jeff wouldn't want to do is just go to website developers and say, hey, would you like to refer to me? Would you like to refer to me? Instead, you would approach them and say, hey, I work with small businesses in the area. Some of them need your service, whatever it is, coaching, website development. I wanted to see if you're open to receiving referrals. So you start by what's in it for them, and then the conversation logically progresses. They're going to ask, well, what is it you do, Jeff? And then they could refer to you. So it can be a two-way street. But you need to have some nuance to this. It's not about just asking them for referrals. It's about asking if you can refer to them first. And it's true. It's not just blowing smoke. Kenny mentions credit repair companies. Absolutely. Credit repair companies would be great because they go repair people's credit. And once people have strong credit, normally they want to use that credit. And so they could use it to get 100,000 or more of business funding. Great example, Kenny. Thank you for that. All right, one more advanced strategy, and then we'll open it up for dialogue. This one we've talked about before. We've had some focused training on, and again, we don't have any financial interest. So when I bring up BNI, which may not know what it is, but when I bring up BNI, it's not because it's in my best interest. But some of you, quite frankly, just are not very good at generating leads. You're good people, you're smart people, you want to make more money, but some of you just aren't good at generating leads. When I worked for State Farm Bank, so I was not a State Farm insurance agent, but I worked for State Farm Bank, and I frankly don't even know if State Farm still has a bank, but they did at the time that I'm speaking of. So I worked for State Farm Bank, and I was in business development, and so I was responsible for going out and doing lunch and learns with local businesses for their employees and teaching financial principles and, of course, driving business into the State Farm agents in the area. But the bottom line is they paid for my BNI. So BNI is a nationwide networking group, and bni.com is their website. I see Christy's asking me to pull it up, so I'll go ahead and pull it up here, bni.com. So we've got to be careful when we talk about networking because networking can mean different things. BNI is a big player in networking, but they have a very structured approach, and some people don't like it. But some people do, and I know that several of you, this is all you do to generate leads. You join BNI and you get referrals, and it kind of taps back into collaborating with other business to business professionals. That's the BNI model. So you could do this kind of ad hoc or in a relaxed sense, or if you're really wanting to get serious, you can join BNI. So BNI has chapters, meetings all across the country or all across the world, but 11,300 across the world. I don't know how many are in the US, but each chapter, each group, each BNI group usually meets either in person or online once a week. They only allow one participant per category. So you're never competing with others for referrals, but you can find chapters. So if we go to bni.com, you click on find chapters. I've not been on their site in a while. So we can type your location. Drake, what city and state are you in, Drake? And I'll look it up for you. Drake Barrett, go ahead and respond. What city and state are you in, Drake? And I'll look it up for you. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so we go to Atlanta, Georgia. So here are their chapters. Think of it as local groups. So when you join a BNI chapter, most of your exposure is going to be with just that group. But there are ways you can get exposures to other groups. But let's just pick one. We'll just go with the top left one, so it doesn't seem manipulated. So there's Georgia Northwest BNI, and we can click on it, and you can see when they meet. So most of these will meet once a week at the same time. So they're a morning meeting. You might say, "Oh no, I got to take kids to school, or that didn't fit my schedule." So we could look at others. So like Georgia Northeast BNI meet during lunch. This one meets at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 11 a.m. So different times, different places. It used to be that we could actually get in and see a lot more. Now they kind of hide it. It used to be that could go in and actually see who the other members are. You know, do they have an accountant? Do they have a lawyer? Do they have insurance agents? Now I think they're kind of filtering that out where they don't want you to get that from the outside for whatever reason. But regardless, BNI, going back to our screen, is a great way to generate leads if you don't have leads. It's professional, it's real. You don't pay for the leads. Now you can go to any BNI meeting, I think twice for free, but then if you want to continue, you need to join. But I know from my experience, which was similar, but again, I worked for State Farm Bank at the time, but it was under financial literacy and access to capital and asset protection. But the bottom line is if you go to a BNI meeting and you don't walk away with at least 2 or 3 referrals, I'd be surprised. And the conversion rates on these referrals are nearly 100% because you're getting a referral from a credible business to business referral source. So, have any of you gone to BNI? And Drake's asking us, so you do have to pick what category. It's called a chair, and I know it's confusing, but it's like what category. So insurance is not just a category. They'll have health insurance and P&C and life insurance. So you would need to see what categories are open and pick a category that's not taken, like chair, but meaning the chair. But it could be financial literacy, or business finance, you would just have to look to see what's available with that group. But excellent, excellent, excellent professional. Now, again, some of you will come back and say, I hated it. It was too structured. I had to go every week and I'm too fucking busy for that. Well, if you're with us and you don't have leads, we need to come up with some way to resolve that, right? And so we've talked about how you can get free leads off Sales Genie, Data Axle, but this blows it out of the water, especially if you're comfortable in person. Now, again, before COVID, all of the BNIs met in person. Since COVID, some have gone back to in person, some are a mix. You're going to get your most bang for the buck going to the in person meeting. If it's in the morning, they'll usually provide breakfast. If it's during lunchtime, they usually provide lunch. But I encourage everybody to try it, especially if you don't have the type of lead flow that you're looking for. Now, some of you have more leads than you need. Take Linzo on here. The last thing Linzo needs is more leads, right? He's freaking drowning in leads. But for those of you that don't have the leads to hit the numbers that you need, then I would strongly encourage this. All right, with that, at the bottom of the page is our normal contact information. If you need help, we recommend texting. This is a text line, not a call line. Text line 903-347-8042. Email, if you want to schedule a call. If you're not a grant coordinator / reseller, want to become one, real easy, free, and so forth, on 509 Pacific, which is right here. If you'd like to be a grant coordinator, fill out the form. We'll send you the packet. If you need a free Shelf Corp, right here on 509 Pacific, right there. And then we record our YouTube trainings. All right, so let's get over to questions, comments, concerns that you all have. All right, so Franz is asking, could he pay for his clients' Shelf Corps? Yeah, we have a number of you that will pay for it because it's the same concept. What's a new client worth to you, Franz? Well, we know that you're going to make 5% on at least 100,000 because we guarantee a minimum of 100,000 of capital raise. So you know each client's worth at least $5,000 to you. So if you spent 500 to make 5,000, is that a good deal? Yeah, for most people it would be, right? You're spending 10% of your income for a client on client development cost. Now, some of you, I'm sure very few of you, aren't very sophisticated, thinking client acquisition cost, well, I shouldn't have to pay anything to get clients. Well, that's nonsense. You're almost always going to have a client acquisition cost, either in direct expense or time. But you're right, Franz, you could pick up the tab. Now, a couple of you are doing this in a more advanced way. You're picking up the tab or paying half of it, but now you're asking for either more money in the end or even looking at getting equity in your clients' businesses. And I'm trying to remember who that was. I think it was Rod, but I don't remember. And Rod, we're glad to see you back and feeling better. But I think it was Rod. Every one of his businesses, he becomes a minority owner, not minority in race, but minority in ownership. So he's building his own 401k. Every week, he's becoming an owner of 10 to 15 new companies. Now, some of them will succeed and some of them won't. Some will be hopefully big and some will be small. But yeah, you can be as creative as you want to be. And this is one way to do that, is to say, hey, the Shelf Corp, because you don't even have to tell them it's only $4.99, right? If you're paying it for them, you could say, well, yeah, the Shelf Corp is 10,000, but I'll tell you what, I'll pick up the tab for you, but I want to be 10% owner. I want to be on the board of directors, for example. Up to you. Great point. So Kenny's bringing up a good point. So certainly getting referrals from other participants in the business funding space is a home run, especially getting their declines. So that's right. So that kind of fits into this category. Let's see. Kenny mentions going to the BBB. So when I first got started, I started doing it when I worked at the SBA, and then I kept up afterwards. I would go in and I would be a guest speaker at the Better Business Bureau meetings. And so they often are looking for speakers. But I guess that's almost a different topic. So let me go to that. We could add become a public speaker on accessing capital to start or grow a business. Yeah, so then you could go teach it at the BBB. I've done it. You could do it. I've taught at chambers of commerce. You could do it. You could teach at trade association meetings. I told you I was down in Houston a couple months ago. I spoke to a group of attorneys. Attorneys are great, 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 because attorneys, frankly, they don't know what you and I know. They know law and they know business to the extent. Think about it. When you were in law school, I'll pull up Prelo. So Prelo, when you were in law school, think about the business classes you had. Prelo, you had contracts one, you had contracts two, and then normally you would have like a business formation class. But for a lot of us, or a lot of you that went to law school, business finance wasn't taught. So we can do a lot to help these attorneys be more valuable. Anytime when a client tells me that, or a prospective client tells me that they have an attorney, I say, great, let's talk to them, because we can provide a whole new revenue stream for attorneys. And we're really looking at bringing in lots of attorneys to our certification program because they have clients and they can refer them to you. But you're right. Um, Public speaking is excellent. A little bit more of an advanced topic. Rod says yes, it was him doing the ownership. All right, so with that being said, we've ran a bit long. The goal today was to thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your diligence. You're out there making a difference in other people's lives. You're out there solving their problems, building their financial literacy, and getting them increased access to capital. We see the success that you're having with the new Express Shelf Corp, where the grant pays for it. You would almost have to be incompetent. I hate to be that strong. You'd almost have to be incompetent to not be able to help clients with this new proposition. I mean, if you can't help businesses that have a problem with this solution, frankly, you're probably in the wrong role, right? Uber probably has an opening for you. But with that being said, Joseph's got a question about deliverables. Yes, sir. So I said this yesterday rather emphatically, and I'll say it again. If you all don't know the deliverables that are in your contract, shame on you. Shame on you, not me. Shame on you. Because when you become a reseller or grant coordinator for free, what do? We send you the contract packet. And if you all don't know the contract, that's fucking horrible. But I can give you the answer to the question. So we can go to 509pacific.org. We can click here. Now, this is our contract setup. When you have your own landing page, then we'll edit all this for you. Got the flyer. We've got the comparison sheet. The comparison sheet describes what's included. Free, 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 right? And then also we have a thing called a contract. And the contract on Exhibit A says what's included. So it's really important that everyone understands what you're offering. Because if you do, it's an amazing value proposition. But I never want any of you coming to me to ask what's included. That shows, and I'm not harping on Joseph anymore, but if any of you don't know what's included, it shows an entire lack of competency on your side, because the flyer states it, the comparison sheet states it, and the damn agreement states it. So there should not be a mystery to you nor your clients. With that being said, we ran long. We'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Let's go out and make some adult money together, right? Today's a great day to go earn a great income. Thanks, everyone. See you back tomorrow.